All right. How many of you remember the T-shirt "Nasty Woman" when Donald Trump referred to Carmen Yulín Cruz, the mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico, as a nasty woman? And then that woman from Michigan, Governor Gretchen Whitmer. They both went out and made T-shirts. Really, it didn't do anything for them politically. Now, if you want to talk about a backfire, deplorables was probably the biggest political backfire in a long, long time. But I think we're about to see another one. Put that graphic up on the screen for me. All right, so there you have the New York Times side by side. You got on one side Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, not referred to as far left or socialist. No, she was carried around on the shoulders of the media as emerging as a political star. Then you've got the special election in a border district down by Texas where Maya Flores won a seat that hasn't been held by a Republican in 150 years. It is the second most Hispanic district in the entire country at 85%. Oh, yeah. The rise of the far right Latina. Okay. All right. Well, you've got Ana Paulina Luna in Florida. You've got Catalina Lauf in Illinois. You've got Yesli Vega in Virginia. You've got Alexis Martinez in New Mexico. And you got Cassie Garcia and Monica de la Cruz in Texas. And my next guest, she's returning to the program, one of the far right Latinas herself, Dr. Mariela Roca, running in Maryland's 6th Congressional District. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks so much for having me. It's always great being here and speaking to you.
All right. We went through all your political bona fides. You line up with all the conservative issues. I just want to get you on this. I just want to get you on this topic that the New York Times so blatantly is displaying its bias. But I think because the New York Times is so influential in journalist opinion making, I think we're going to see a backfire as big as deplorables.
No, I agree. And we kind of talked about this earlier. It's kind of comical and a little bit embarrassing, but, it's expected. I'm seeing this a lot. I'm seeing the attacks from the left calling me a disgrace, that, I shouldn't be a Republican. How dare I be part of this party? And my answer to that is, you know what? We're not far left. We're common sense. So how does that make us far right? Excuse me. We're common sense. That's at the end of the day.
Would you guys? I've always said I think the umbrella, the big term Hispanic, does not look. Your family's from Puerto Rico. Well, Puerto Ricans are not Mexicans. Mexicans are not Cubans. Cubans are not Hondurans. Hondurans are not Venezuelans. And they come, every one of those nations I just named, people that come from those nations come with different experiences, right? So there's a difference between a Mexican immigrant in Texas and, let's say, a Cuban exile in South Florida. They're coming with very different experiences. Same thing for Venezuela. If you're fleeing communism, when you get to the United States, you don't want any more communism, right? If you grew up not that far from Cuba or you came from Cuba, you don't want any more communism. But traditionally, the broad Hispanic vote was seen as always a guarantee for the Democrats. But as I said to you before we came on live, when I see people gravitating to the conservative movement, it's because they've experienced the progressive movement or the Democrat Party, and they don't want to be a part of it anymore.
No, I agree. And I think Elon Musk said it best. The Democrat Party has moved so far to the left that people don't have a choice but to say, wait a minute, I don't align with that. I'm definitely more on the conservative side. Hey, Republicans, tell me more about you. And I think we're seeing that across this country, across all these states that are being flipped. And I wanted to mention something earlier because you mentioned it. It's not necessarily about voting based on my ethnicity, but it's about our life experiences, the things that we've been through the things that people can relate to. At least for myself, I think my track record speaks for itself. I was served in the military. I have an MBA, a doctorate in business. I've built my career. I also happen to be Hispanic, and I have the true conservative values of hard work, family first, and loving my country no matter what. And I think a lot of people are waking up to that.
I think there's also a sense of when you tell people that they should be free to think for themselves and be independent, that means they might make a choice that you don't agree with and you have to kind of respect it. But the left doesn't respect that, right? There's a certain demand that if we count you as ours, you're ours, and you better not go over there. And they kind of sound like a crazy ex-boyfriend or girlfriend when they do that stuff.
No, I agree. And I mean, at the end of the day, this is what's beautiful about this country. Just like you can be anybody you want to be, you can be whatever party you want to be. And instead of celebrating and lifting each other up, what they want to do is tear us down. And I think it's very unfortunate that they decide to do that. But at the end of the day, we're knocking on doors. The voters, at least here in the 6th Congressional District in Maryland, they see through all those things. They see through the noise and the flashy things, and at the end of the day, they want someone real that's going to represent them. And I think that's what I bring to the table here in Maryland 6.
Look, I've told you this, and I've told everyone that I've interviewed, I don't like talking about demographics with candidates. I like talking about taxes and border security and that stuff because, it sounds almost pandering and a little bit patronizing to do it. But when you look at a media that promotes the idea of inclusion and representation and glass ceiling breaking, again, that headline, they carried Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez around on their shoulders. Not one of the women that have been mentioned as a far-right Latina have gotten any positive press. They're not sitting down with you going, well, tell us why. At least give us that. It's almost like they wanted to write this hit piece and then move on. You would think if the media cares about representation, they'd go, well, this is kind of a curiosity, right? This is not one woman. This is a group of women.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's what the liberal media does. They, like you said, it's their way or their highway. And at the end of the day, it's okay. We're going to keep fighting. I mentioned this earlier. We're known to be fighters. I fought my entire life, being in the military, being a minority, having to, make my place known a little bit harder. And I know that the things that we're doing are great. People are seeing it. And despite all the things that they're saying or not saying, the voters at the end of the day are the ones that are going to decide. And they're going to decide in our favor, at least here in Maryland 6th, this July 19th.
I think one also true thing about conservatism versus progressivism, beyond just the mechanics of how they both work, when you get down to, what our path is in, you look at the way the left, everything's about bait, right? It's a shiny thing. It's a specific promise. It's a little bit of, pandering and patronizing. When people arrive at the conservative tent, it's open, it's diverse, but there's no shiny offerings, right? You're here because you've experienced other things, and now you believe this, and you're here, and people are going to treat you equally. It's not a little pat on the head and what kind of cookie would you like to come in?
No, I mean, that's been my experience. I've been welcomed with open arms in the Republican Party, especially coming into this race as a political outsider. I've never run for office before, and everybody has been like, okay, hey, nice to meet you. But it hasn't been with a shiny object. It's been, okay, tell us what you're about, show us how you can help and how you can be the change. And I think that's really important. It's like nothing's handed to you. You've still got to work for yourself, for your race, for what you believe in. And again, another conservative value, hard work. It doesn't matter who you are, where you came from, as long as you work hard, you can be anything that you want to be.
I think when this, I was reading one, we're going to run out of time here. I'll have to get you back on radio in the near future. I was reading one Democrat strategist who said if the Democrats thought they were going to lose 10% of the Hispanic vote, the strategist would be in the fetal position. And they said, we're looking at 45 to 50. I can't imagine the meltdown that we're going to see in November when we see this group of women, including you, win, and we see where the votes fall for, based on demographics. Like I said, I hate talking about, but I think there's going to be a lot of anger.